What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Everything College Basketball Podcast, episode 195. I'm, of course, your host, Josh Burton, and joining me today are a pair of my teammates that I love dearly at this point, Mr. Michael DeRosa, head coach Scott Para. Coach DeRosa, it is a cold, yet again, cold Sunday afternoon here in the state of Indiana, which means one thing. We are firmly in the heart of basketball season, so I will trade. By the way, I am very much a cold person the older I get. The heat does something to my skin. It gives me headaches. I love the cold for multiple reasons. One being, when it gets cold out here, it's basketball season in full swing. How are we doing on this fine Sunday afternoon? DeRosa, I know you're in the same state I am, cold. Coach, I'm sure down there in Texas it's probably a little bit warmer.
Yeah, we're dealing with a little bit of rain this morning, but it's in the 70s. No complaints. It's actually almost too warm for this time of the year. I want the seasons and the football weather and the basketball weather to kick in here as well. I think it's supposed to actually later this week. But once again, Josh, I'm starting off my week with the Stratford Spartans.
There we go.
With another huge win the other night to make it to the state Final Four, 41-2 now currently, and state semis Tuesday night, neutral site in College Station versus a team from Austin. So we were all very, very excited about that.
Hell yeah, we are pumped. We've been keeping up with it, asking about live streams and all that. And then you told us they got the win. So congratulations. I know off air we heard your daughter come in, so we were able to congratulate her on that. That's a big deal, DeRosa. 41-2 is a hell of a lot of wins.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever went 41-2 in anything. So round of applause.
Yeah, it's something, and I had some pretty good records, as a high school coach, and I went through these runs as a high school coach, and it's just so fun. You just get so many people so excited, and it's just such great memories for these girls, that they may not appreciate right now, but they will in the years to come. And hopefully they can win another one Tuesday and then really make this thing exciting. We'll see. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun down here doing that.
Fingers crossed for that. Hopefully we get a good report coming up. Shout out our guy. He's always the first in the chat, Connor McCabe. He says, "What's up, guys? It's currently 65 and sunny in North Carolina. Beautiful today." Well, I'm glad it's beautiful out there. I mean, I don't know. What is the weather? Let me check the weather here. It's 60 degrees is what it says here in Columbus, Indiana. But it's cold, and I love it. I love it so much, except for my eyes doing this thing. So if you see me, I don't know. But nonetheless, go ahead.
As we move to basketball, I got to give a little props to the Marian University. Pat Knight. First of all, our two guests are doing pretty well.
Dude, I'm telling you, there's something magic about this show.
Pat's off to a 4-1 start, and they have a game against a ranked Grace, right? I believe on Wednesday.
Yep.
And then obviously Mike and Penn State with a big win over Virginia Tech. They're 4-0 and signed the highest ranked recruiting class in Penn State history the other day. So, hey, the guests on this show are doing well so far. And plus those guys being such good friends of mine, I'm really happy for both of them.
Well, I mean, literally, DeRosa, we did the interview that went up on, I think it was a Thursday with Coach Rhodes, and then the Friday morning they get that top 50 recruit. We're like, man, I don't want to say it's us, but it may be us. I tell you what, I'm glad all of our streams are doing well, knock on wood, right now, because I would say this is sponsored by Netflix, but then you wouldn't be able to see us if you get the joke from the Tyson fight the other night. But hey, I want to start with something real quick. Let's get into it. So it is in the heart of early recruiting. What is that called? Early commitment window, whatever. And so you're starting to see. Thank you. I went blank there for a second. So you're starting to see a lot of the kids from the 25 class for next year start to commit early. And I understand the reasoning behind it. They want to get it done and out the way. Obviously, I'm sure selfishly, they probably want to get that love from the fan base at their high school games their senior year. But there was another big one with a big name that committed the other day. No surprise. Kean Anthony, son of Carmelo Anthony, commits Syracuse. I think that was kind of in the stars for a long time. But we have another legacy recruit. If we remember the other day, we talked about Jace Richardson playing at Michigan State, and we've seen it for a long time now. following in his father's footsteps. We know what Carmelo did and meant for that Syracuse program. It's 1 year there, won a national title. And now his son follows his footsteps. So, Coach, I'll come to you first. One, I don't think it's a big surprise he's going to Syracuse. But two, Kian, really good player. But those expectations from Syracuse fans, I'd imagine, are going to be like, yeah, we can kind of relive our glory days. And I don't think that's fair. How do you think he can manage that as a Syracuse Orange next year?
Yeah, I think you make really, really good points, Josh. It's you must, the kid obviously to have the whatever the word is to want to do that. He obviously is a very confident young man. I think he obviously understands too, what some of that means. And maybe I don't know the kid and I don't know his person. Maybe he relishes that. Maybe he, wants to continue and kind of help bring Syracuse back to where his dad had it. And that's great respect for him, to have, if that's his attitude and approach. Obviously being Carmelo Anthony, I mean, it's impossible. I mean, to kind of match or beat what he did, but he was only there 1 year. Maybe this young man will be there 2 or 3, or who knows, even 4, but, and build his own legacy and kind of help bring Syracuse, kind of back in that, top 20 team on a yearly basis due to his impact of being there.
Well, DeRosa, I mean, the recruiting trail, like you followed it a little bit more closely than I used to. Kian's a very good player. Kind of long, lanky, doesn't have like that I don't think that natural build that Carmelo did even as a freshman, where he's kind of broader, but born scorer, can go get his own. How do you think he fits in with Syracuse next year?
Yeah, I feel like I have to preface anytime I talk about Syracuse by saying I hate Syracuse. Just throw it that way. Yeah, I mean, grew up a Georgetown guy, so I have to. But Kian Anthony's just an excellent scorer. Like, he just is kind of a natural scorer. I mean, it makes sense because he's Carmelo's kid. Just natural score. I think that's what he's going to bring. I'm assuming Donnie Freeman ends up going pro for them next year, because I feel like he's more of a development guy at this point in his college progression. But also, I think he'd be a first-round pick. And if you're going to be a first-round pick, get your money, king. But yeah, I like the recruiting class Syracuse has coming in with Anthony, who is an excellent scorer. They also bring in Sadiq White, who is a top 25 recruit. He would be the perfect piece if they were still running the 2-3. Long, athletic, annoying defensively, rebounds well, but just really long. Like, he sticks his arms out, and you put him next to a Kian Anthony at the top of the key. They just stick their arms out. They're guarding the entire court. So,
is Anthony a top 75, top 100 kid? What is he?
Yeah, Anthony's top 40.
Top 40. So they got 2 top 40 kids in that class.
Yeah, good class. They've been recruiting really well, since Autry's taken over. They've gotten some dudes.
It's going to start showing. I know they won the other night, and they've won. I don't think they've lost yet, right, to start this year. But Syracuse playing around with Youngstown State, playing around with all these teams that they should be winning big by. They're going to have to start figuring some of that out. But Kian Anthony, I think that was like no surprise whatsoever. I think I've seen some like Florida State fans, because they did one of those photo shoots where Carmelo put the little Florida State medium jersey on and posed with Kian, that maybe they thought they could reel him, but there's no chance that kid wasn't going to Syracuse. But congratulations to the Syracuse fans. Let's see if this legacy pans out. Really good player, really talented kid, and we'll be excited to cover him next year. Hey, before we get into the reviews from the weekend, I thought, boy, I've been listening to other podcasts and stuff, and through 2 weeks, hot takes galore. That's kind of where everything's at. So I thought, you know what? Let's do a hot take through our first 2 weeks, kind of our impressions. And DeRosa, I'll start, because this will tie into kind of your expertise out there in the Big East country. Here's my hot take through 2 weeks. Outside of UConn, and I guess now Marquette, so 2 teams, the Big East sucks this year. The Big East is not good this year at all. You got UConn, you got Marquette. Everybody else is going to be fighting for mediocrity, I believe. I don't think that conference is going to be very good this year.
St. John's is playing right now, and they look good. They're beating up on New Mexico right now. I would throw St. John's in there. I would throw Creighton in there. I feel like they're going to be fine. Like, when you have Ryan Kalkbrenner, you're just kind of he's just kind of such a good safety net defensively that you're just going to be fine with, like, you are almost guaranteed to have a top 20-ish defense, that everything else will work itself out. But yeah, aside from that, Xavier to me has been underwhelming this year. It makes sense that it's going to take them a little bit of time, because they bring in, I think it was 6 transfers. 7 if you count Traore, who was out for the season, 6 transfers, and then you have 2 guys coming off injury, that it was definitely going to take them some time. But yeah, the bottom of the Big East looks bad. Just from 6 to 11, DePaul has honestly looked like the best team at this point in the season. They haven't been tested. Georgetown laid an absolute egg against Notre Dame. Butler lost to Austin Peay. You have Seton Hall has laid absolute egg after absolute egg. And then Providence is squeaking by 4-0 and one of the worst non-conference schedules to start a season. Yeah, Big East has not been a good start for the Big East. You're going to need the bottom of the conference to look more competent, and you're probably going to need some of these teams up top to finally win some big games. But I think you missed St. John's when you were talking to them.
Okay.
St. John's has been
New Mexico just cut it to 7, just FYI.
Well, see, okay, St. John's, I guess, is kind of in that middle ground for me because they haven't – today they're getting tested against a good New Mexico team. But, like, you look at UConn. What's their, like, strength of schedule? Like 340? And I know they're blown out to teams. That's good, and I believe that they're still going to be good. Marquette with a big win we're going to talk about over the weekend. But the rest of the Big East, yeah, they're winning games, but to your point, it is squeakers, like against teams that they should not have close games against. So I worry about the Big East as a whole. And, yeah, I think that's my hot take. They're going to have 2, maybe 3 good teams, and the rest of the league is just going to be booty. So that's my hot take. Coach, do you have a hot take through 2 weeks?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know that I fully agree with you on the Big East. I think it'll be better than you think in 10 games from now.
Yeah.
But I think I was kind of down on the Big Ten in the preseason. And I think the Big Ten might be a little better than I thought. Especially watching. Yeah, that's kind of my hot take, I guess. And maybe people thought the Big Ten was going to be really good. I mean, I thought I saw a lot of mediocrity. But Wisconsin was very impressive. I mean, Penn State was picked 17th. They look, they didn't play anybody early, but they destroyed Virginia Tech. I think that they look impressive. Some of the other teams, Purdue's win over Alabama. I mean, look what they've done. So I think the Big Ten, and maybe I'm off. Maybe everybody thought it was going to be really strong, but I didn't think it was going to be really strong. And so far it has been.
Well, no, I think that's awesome tie-in because today's theme of the show is a big week for the Big Ten, or big weekend for the Big Ten. And DeRosa, you covered the Big Ten in the magazine, but we talked about it extensively a lot during the preseason. I think the compelling thought was that the Big Ten would have 3 or 4 teams towards tier 1, and then a lot of teams in the middle that aren't great, and then a couple teams at the bottom that's going to be really, really bad. And to your point, I think through the first 2 weeks, as you're saying, maybe there's more teams in this league who can really play than what we gave credit to. Shout out to Penn State. Played really nobody the first couple games, but scored 100 points back to back and then beat up on Virginia Tech. They look really good offensively right now. And then Purdue and all those teams, Indiana. So DeRosa, I like that. I like that hot take that the Big Ten is going to be better than what we thought.
Yeah, I'm with it. Big Ten's been effective this year. Like, they're just winning games pretty simply. Penn State in particular was a team I was really low on entering the season. Not to disrespect one of Coach's good friends, but I love Ace Baldwin. The rest of that roster, I don't think had anyone who had ever scored in double figures for a college season at their previous destination or at Penn State, aside from Baldwin. So it was just like you needed some scoring somewhere. And where I love Ace Baldwin, he's awesome. I just didn't see it with the rest of that roster. But I mean, to your point, they've scored 100 points in 3 games. So I don't know if scoring's been the issue for them. Yeah, they're averaging, I'd have to do some quick math, but definitely in the 90s this year. So that's got to be positive for them.
They could be, I looked at their schedule and I have to go back. It's possible they could be 7-0 when Purdue comes to State College in early December. That would be fun.
Let me pull up Penn State. DeRosa, do you have a hot take?
They play Fort Wayne, Fordham, and Buffalo as their next 3.
They should be 7-0 or 6. Yeah.
Purdue
comes in, so that would be fun. Like, that would be really cool.
Yeah, and that's a good shout.
3 turnovers in their game. We'll get that later, but that's crazy.
Yeah. DeRosa, you got a hot take through 2 weeks?
Yeah, this is one I held on to preseason. This is a take I had in the preseason that I'm just going to bring over now. You took the Big East. I'm going to the SEC. What do people see in this Ole Miss team?
I don't see. Yeah. Okay. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So I've seen people who had them preseason top 25 and I didn't.
Yeah. I don't get that at all.
I covered the SEC. Keep in mind, I know this Ole Miss team really well. I know Chris Beard is a phenomenal head coach. We all know that. They've got pieces, right? They brought in Dre Davis coming in from Seton Hall. They've got Jalen Murray back. They've got Matthew Morrell back. They've got a lot of pieces back from a team that was decent. Remember last year at the start, Ole Miss started like 15-3. And then they got in the meat of the SEC and kind of fell apart a little bit. I didn't understand it. I don't think they're a bad team, but the way some people talked about them is I never understood it.
Yeah, I think they're like fine, but you're going to be starting a 6'8" big in SEC play in all likelihood in either Jamin Brakefield or Raquel Brown-Jones. It's been Brakefield thus far in the season, so I assume it's going to be him.
Well. He don't shoot well.
Yeah, no. So like, I don't really know what you're getting there. Dre Davis is solid. He's Malik Diaz, 6'9", but he's kind of more like, I kind of think he was like really good on that Belmont team because he was like their athlete. And then the guards, I kind of thought Sean Padula was a little overrated as a transfer because he's very good offensively, but he's almost a zero defensively. So I don't know. I also think that with like the change in like the block charge rule and some of that stuff, that could take away from Beard's defense a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. I never saw it with this Ole Miss team. Like, I'm not saying they can't be a tournament team. They're probably, to me, I kind of view them as a bubble team, but top 25 to me was egregious.
I mean, I get it. I just didn't understand the preseason top 25 love for them. Don't think they're a bad team. Think they're going to be fine. Probably a tournament team. But I just didn't understand the preseason love. But let's get into the weekend's action. And I don't think we can start any place other than West Lafayette. I don't think that we can talk about any other game from this weekend other than going to the big one on Friday night that saw number 14 in the ECB top 25 Purdue beat number 2 Alabama 87-78. And what a phenomenal atmosphere. The three of us came on here the other day and talked about this as a potential deciding factor. Told you I've been to Mackey for a big game. That place is nuts. I think the world, if they forgot, kind of got put back on notice. That you want a hot take. I think we agree that Allen Fieldhouse is the number one home court advantage in college basketball. I think I'm ready to put Mackey Arena number 2. That place was 72 straight sellouts, loud, rowdy. Every time Purdue made a run or did something good, you could hear the roar from the crowd, especially when they would go in like an 8-0 run. That building is special right now, and I think, to me, it's right behind Allen Fieldhouse for number 2. But, Coach, you look at this game, man. Purdue got the pace where they wanted it. They kept the game pretty much set in the half court, ran when they had the opportunity, but kept it in the half court, made Alabama work defensively. And then your big players came through. Braden Smith had 17 and 10 assists in this game. You got Trey Kaufman-Wren dominating Grant Nelson on the inside, going for a career high 26 and 8. Fletcher Lawyer had double figure scoring. I thought it was a superb Matt Painter performance all around. Yeah. And I just thought they tuck it away. I thought they took Alabama to the woodshed.
I think as a coach, like for Coach Painter, you know, when you prepare a game for a game plan or to play a game, you see a certain way in which you kind of hope it plays out for your team to have success and to win the game. And I thought it was like a masterclass. It was like perfect, right? I mean, he had to feel so good after that game about how his kids executed what they were trying to do, the message he had sent to them of how they were going to beat them, and then they did exactly that. And, you know, like you said, that place was, you know, about ready to blow the roof off a few times, and that matters too. And credit to Nate Oates to go play that game. And so that's just going to make Alabama better too. But just a clinic by Purdue. That's why Matt Painter is one of the best in the business, and why, why again, I think the Big Ten with a big weekend. And we certainly, you know, I always say to you guys, and we talk about this a lot. I mean, don't overreact, don't underreact. Alabama will be just fine, and they'll take some losses along the road somewhere. But come March, they're going to be a problem and tough to beat for sure.
I agree. DeRosa, I think a couple things stand out. One, Alabama did get Wilberg in foul trouble. He was out pretty much most of that first half because he picked up 3. Was really not a factor. But I think in a weird way that allowed Purdue to go small. It moved Trey Kaufman-Wren to the 5. And then you had shooters, people who could take you off the bounce galore. And it really – they did to Alabama what Alabama tries to do to other people.
And we talked about that, right, with the injury. Right. Remember, Mike, we talked about that on the show. How was Purdue going to adjust with the minutes being changed, and foul trouble kind of caused it. Now they know what they have.
Well, you put that Purdue lineup out there with TKR at the 5, and then you got Braden Smith and Lawyer, and whether it be Jakari Harris, or we got to shout out CJ Cox. How about a kid, DeRosa, that was a 3-star kid that is only offers outside of when Purdue came calling, where teams like Monmouth and Buffalo and whoever else. It speaks to the credit of Matt Painter caring more about developing and what he sees as potential than he does about star ratings. And this kid, in a big moment, the biggest moment of his career to date, 11 points, 3 of 3 from the 3-point line. They were all timely. He went on that 8-0 run by himself or whatever it was. I mean, Matt Painter he keeps finding these dudes that are undervalued and underappreciated, and they turn into stars for him.
Yeah, that was the same when he got Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer. They were both 3-star recruits, if I remember correctly, when he brought him over. I mean, great calls there. And yeah, TKR, I didn't think we had seen that. Like, he looked good in the first 3 games. I don't think we had seen like that. Like, okay, he looks like the star that this team needs him to be. He looks like the guy that's been hyped all offseason. I don't think we had seen that in the first 3 games. We saw it against Alabama. He looked excellent. Just did everything you needed him to. The team shot well from 3, but to me, the key, and I shouted this out earlier, so I'm going to bring it up again because it still amazes me. 3 turnovers against Alabama. Just 3. Braden Smith, 10 assists to 1 turnover. That is the floor general right there, just setting everybody up. That is a near perfect game. I don't think he shot it the best, but yeah.
He didn't need to.
Exactly. Controlled everything with the game. That's a near flawless performance.
Well, we don't also talk, too. He pulled in 6 rebounds from a point guard spot. And defensively, it's very hard to stay in front of those Alabama guards. Mark Sears in particular, but even Latrell Wrightsell is a good 3-point shooter. And I thought he did well as far as trying to make them work to get whatever they needed to get. Alabama started this game like 0 of 9 from 3 and found themselves in a hole early. They only shot 9 of 29 for 31% in this game. So I want to say this. When Alabama can't get the pace that they want, which is up and down the floor, spreading you out, burying threes, attacking the rim with lobs and layups, there's going to be nights like this. Especially when they get into SEC play, and their remaining non-con schedule is brutal. Like, Nate Oates ain't afraid to play anybody. And they're going to run up to this. If they don't get the tempo where they want, which is blazing fast, and they can't get their threes to fall early, I think Alabama could take a few more losses than maybe what is expected. But to Coach's point, by the tournament, just like last year, they're going to be a problem to play against. But I want to see them do something different when the shots aren't falling. Don't stop taking them, but do something to get yourself in a rhythm, change the tempo up, whatever you got to do, because I'm worried that this is going to be the same recipe as kind of always with Alabama. If they don't get it to where they want it and they're not making shots, they're very, very susceptible to getting beat. I don't know if they can pull out a close one like this. I want to, Coach, I want to give some love to the freshman from Alabama too, LeBaron Philon. 18 points off the bench, really carried Alabama's scoring for a lot of that game until some of the other players started making some shots. But I thought not only scoring-wise, giving him 18, he had 4 assists, 5 rebounds, and defensively, as good as you possibly could ask from a bench guy, especially a freshman coming off the bench. I thought he took a huge step forward on Friday night in his development.
Yeah, so there's a huge, for the Alabama staff, there's a big deal, right? Even in that game. Because again, they have so many guys that are talented, and if they have a kid that can do that in that kind of environment on the road as a freshman, it just bodes so well down the road for his development, for their team development, for the confidence Nate will have in him the next time they're in a spot like that where they know he's capable of producing and keep him in it. So yeah, it was just there's always things to find that I think coaches and staffs will be happy about, in spite of losing a tough road matchup like that. Of course, he's upset they lost. Nobody enjoys that, but that's certainly something worth noting for that staff for sure.
DeRosa, I'll give you one thing to end this on my end. You picked Oregon to win the Big Ten in the magazine, and I think we had Purdue second, third, whatever it may be. I think Friday night was a fun reminder for everybody that until proven otherwise, the Big Ten runs through West Lafayette.
Yeah, going back to Coach's hot take from earlier that the Big Ten's been impressive. The reason I ended up picking Oregon was because I kind of thought all these teams were on the same tier. Like I kind of thought they were all in the same, like I thought they'd be like 15 to like 22, like the Purdue, Indiana, and Oregon. Those were the three that I really liked. That I was just like, okay, that if those three teams, I think they're basically the exact same, I'll just take the shot and be like, yeah, the team that I think is basically equal to these two teams that nobody else likes, I'll just put them first. Like I thought they were very, very close. Like it wasn't me doing it just for like clicks or whatever. It was me doing it because I did tend to lean Oregon as the best too, because I liked a lot of that roster, but I just thought it was fairly even between the three. But yeah, this runs through West Lafayette, especially if we're getting this version of TKR and this team is handling the ball this well. The Big Ten runs through West Lafayette until proven otherwise.
Who do you think the fourth best team in the Big Ten is, Michael?
I had Michigan State originally. They haven't proven a lot to me yet. I didn't love what I've seen.
Say Penn State. Just say Penn State.
No, we're not there yet. We're not there
yet.
I was more curious about Wisconsin. Was that in performance? Was that just a one-off? Or where'd you have them preseason?
I had them fairly low. I didn't love them either. Yeah. I thought they were like solid. But I kind of thought this in league, like there was that top
tier. That's my point.
Like
4 through 15 is like
very even.
Yes.
Yep. Real quick, because we're going to get to Wisconsin here in just a second, but listen to Alabama's next 6. No, there's no cupcakes. There's no like we'll play 2 and then play, Delta Valley State or whoever. They've got Illinois, Houston, Rutgers, Notre Dame, North Carolina, Creighton. From Wednesday, November 20th to Saturday, December 14th, they're playing 6 very tough opponents. And that speaks to that's part of a set, really an 8-game stretch, or if you want to include McNeese. Like Nate Oates, to your point, Coach, not afraid to play anybody. It reminds me of the old Tom Izzo kind of adage where he's like, we'll play anybody, anywhere, anytime. Nate Oates knows the importance of, hey, let's get our team ready. Boy, they're playing a gauntlet schedule. That is brutal.
Toughest schedule in the country?
I think it's got to be, right?
How can it be not? How can it be?
Yeah.
I mean, they could be legitimately, I don't know, do all the math on 5-4.
Yeah, no, I think that's a possibility. Yeah,
probably a probability.
And they're playing a variety of different styles too.
Yeah.
Houston's going to keep them in the half court like Purdue did. Illinois probably wants to try to get up and down the floor with them. North Carolina definitely wants to get up and down the floor and play a high Creighton. But then Rutgers, 2 extremely talented lottery picks. How are they going to want to play them? Notre Dame's going to keep in the half court. So they're getting a mix of styles, and it's back to back to. I mean, incredible shout out to Nate Oates and company, but that is a brutal schedule.
Who do they have at home, Josh? In that stretch.
Let me pull it back up and look real quick. So let's see here. They've got Illinois. It says semi-home. That's because it's in Birmingham. Houston is a neutral. It doesn't say on KenPom. Rutgers is a neutral. Notre Dame's a neutral. At North Carolina for the ACC SEC Challenge, home against Creighton. So they get 1 true home game, 1 semi-home there in Birmingham. Wow. The North Carolina on the road and 3 neutrals.
That is brutal.
Brutal. Absolute brutal. Let's stay in the Big Ten since that's kind of the theme of today's show. Let's go to Wisconsin. We talked about them. I think here in the panel, I'm the only one who predicted them to win. Or no, Coach, did you go with them as well? I don't remember.
Yes. I only lost 1. Yeah, I went 3-1. You went 4-0.
So we both went Wisconsin for, again, that Kohl Center, man, is such a nightmare factory for opposing teams. And Wisconsin was up 18 in this game. They were blowing the doors off Arizona. And then I look up and Arizona's got it tied at like 63 all. So it shows you the resilience and the toughness of Arizona. But at the end of the day, Wisconsin 103, number 10 Arizona 88, and a very comfortable, impressive win for Greg Gard's men up there in Wisconsin. How about John Tanji? 41 on Arizona, dropping buckets. But also we got to talk about there was over 80 free throws shot in this game.
Ridiculous.
80 free. I mean, look at this. Arizona went 28 of 40 from the foul line. This don't even seem real. Wisconsin 41 of 47, Coach.
Wow.
87 free throws shot in this ball game.
How many guys fouled out? How many guys fouled out?
Let's see. Caleb Love, Toby Awaka, Stephen Crowell. Only 3 dudes fouled out for both teams. combined.
That's a
but
lot.
There
of
was
fouls.
a lot. Like if you look, Arizona had 32 team fouls and Wisconsin had 31.
That's ridiculous. I mean,
but is there a more Wisconsin style game though? That they want to be physical. I mean, sans the fact that they scored 103 points, which we don't ever think Wisconsin doing.
Yeah, if you'd told me it's 103-88, I would have said Arizona won.
Exactly. Yeah. Obviously, the free throws, all that helped, but this is a very Wisconsin style game. They want to beat the hell out of you and dare officials to make calls. And the officials Friday night said, we're going to make every call. We're going to call everything. But John Tonji, though, the 22 free throws aside, still put up 41 on a top 10 team at home. Incredible win for Wisconsin, coach.
I mean, no question about it. And I guess, you know, as much as I picked them to win, I was still surprised because of the score. Now, I didn't watch. I was following a little bit on my phone, and I wasn't locked into watching it. So I didn't realize there was, 85 free throws shot in the game. So maybe, I don't know how it must have been really choppy. Those games are really hard to coach and really hard to play in because there's just no rhythm or flow to a game when there's that many foul called. Now, the other side of it is both those coaches need to talk to their teams. I mean, you can't play if you're going to foul that much. You're going to have to make some adjustments, maybe. But again, will the referees stay consistent? Was that just a weird game? I don't know. I would need to have somebody really watch it. Maybe I need to go back and watch it myself to see.
Coach, if you were coaching Arizona during a game like that and every little thing was a foul, would you or would you have not been tossed? Because I would have lost my mind.
Well, look, you have to weigh. Yeah, I mean, your goal is not, maybe to get tossed. I mean, but I would be frustrated. I mean, especially if, look, we as coaches, like in the preseason, we bring referees in to ref our practices. And so you kind of have a feel for your team is like, have we been fouling a ton? Has this been a problem? Or is this like out of all of a sudden this game, they're calling all this stuff. And these are the things you don't know, right, when you're watching the game and when you're thinking about it. And so, it just depends. I mean, if they've been having a foul problem in practice and with all the refs that have been coming in, but if they're calling all those little things, I probably would have got an AT. I don't know. I would have tried not to get ejected, but who knows?
DeRosa, they would have told me when I was coaching, they'd been like, get out of here, because I would have been in their ear. I couldn't handle it. Like, I remember in middle school, just sidebar real quick, when I was coaching my middle school team, 8th grade, we played a smaller team in a game on a Tuesday night. And for middle school, played 7-minute quarters, 6-minute quarters, whatever it was. We had over 50 fouls called, and I lost my mind. I got a tech. We end up winning that game now, but I let the refs know. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
I just had a memory of one of the games I played in. I was playing an AAU game, and I was never a very good basketball player. Keep this in mind. But we were playing an AAU game, and there was one game where we were like kind of in it, like it was competitive. And if you know anything about me, I was that little like on-court coach who would just yell the entire time. That was basically all I could do. So it's like, all right, you got to be here, you got to be here, like doing all that sort of stuff, right? And then like there was one time the ref made like a bad call on like he either called us for like a travel, something like that, and it just wasn't. And I was like, all right. I gave him a look. Then I looked back over it and was like, press up. And he called me for a tech because I yelled at my team to press up because we were supposed to press. And I got teched up for that. And I think about it every once in a while. And it just came back to me and I just got angry again. So I definitely would have gotten kicked out of this game, long story short.
Go ahead, Coach.
I think in my 7 years at Rice, I got kicked out once. And it was with point one on the clock. And it was on purpose, but that's for a whole nother. That story's for another day.
Right.
Well, I was watching the Georgetown game this weekend. I was thinking, I just wanted Cooley to get kicked out at this point. Like this game's over. Just get kicked out. Send a message.
We can have a larger discussion at another point in time about that. But I've heard coaches, especially back in the older school days when wasn't as political and stuff, but they would sometimes purposely get thrown out to fire their team up and whatever. And I believe in certain situations as a coach, like you got to take one and let the officials know. But how about in this game? Back to this. Arizona. If I told you Arizona had 24 offensive rebounds to Wisconsin's 2, there's no shot in hell that you thought Wisconsin wins this game, let alone by 15. 24 offensive rebounds. Toby Awaka, before fouling out, had 7 himself. Arizona,
I bet that stat's a 99% win.
Oh, it's got to be.
probability.
It's got to be. 24 offensive rebounds is
To
more than a
2.
lot of teams get in like 2, 3, 4 games. Like, that's a lot of offensive rebounds. And then also Arizona shot 4 of 23 from the three-point line. Like, they were not good from that area. Wisconsin, conversely, shot 12 of 27. So if you break this down in more of a simpler terms, Wisconsin won the three-point line. They won the foul line by a large margin, right? And Arizona dominated the offensive rebound. But the three-point shot and the foul shot was the big difference in this game. It usually is. Whoever wins a free throw line, whoever wins a three-point line usually wins games in today's college basketball.
24-2 is about as absurd as I've ever heard. I mean, look, Houston is known to do some crazy offensive rebounding stat numbers, but in a high level game against another Power 5 opponent, 24-2 is insane.
Crazy. And they took Arizona took 22 more shot attempts than Wisconsin.
Wow.
And Wisconsin didn't only won the free throw battle by 7. So it's not like Wisconsin was only getting free throws then. It's just kind of wild, but they did a good enough job running Arizona off the three-point line to one of the points Josh brought up that I was going to end up bringing up. So he stole it from me. 423 from 3. They got him off three-point line and 23 of their 74 attempts only. I feel like Arizona wants to shoot more from long distance than that. So they ran him off. Good job there. And also we mentioned John Tanji. Tanji last year was at Missouri. He played 8 games, started 4 of them, played 9 minutes a game, 2.6 points per game. After a good career at Colorado State, he was very good at Colorado State with those teams. Transferred to Missouri, did almost nothing. As a result, people didn't talk about him a ton. He's woke everybody up with this performance. Goodness. Yeah.
Completely.
Very impressive.
He 4 of 6 from the three-point line as well. So not everything was just around the bucket. Last thing on Arizona as well. You talked about, Wisconsin shot 7 more, but huge discrepancy in makes. We talked about Wisconsin 41 of 47, Arizona 28 of 40. I mean, I think if I'm Arizona, I'm probably getting to work on some more live free throw when you're tired kind of free throw makes, because leaving 12 at the line still would have got them beat by 3. But in certain situations, maybe it ties the game up, momentum swings. However, impressive win for Wisconsin, no matter how it gets done, whether it's a foul fest, whatever happens, that is a huge win for Wisconsin. And as we've talked about, another big time win for the Big Ten that occurred this last weekend. Now let's talk about the one that the Big Ten did not get this weekend. Playing at home, Maryland, we talked about, had the opportunity to kind of put themselves firmly in the national spotlight, playing a top 15 Marquette team at home. And this was a game that they led. They had a 36-30 lead. They were leading throughout the game at different points, but Marquette continues to get big performances by Cam Jones. He drops 28 in this game, 3 of 5 from the three-point line. Stevie Mitchell with 18. Royce Parman, the freshman, coming off the bench, giving them 10. I mean, over the last couple of years, DeRosa, this is just kind of what Marquette does. Like, they may not look great all the time, but when they need a scoring run, they're going to get it. They're going to go on like an 11-0 run or a 12-2 or whatever they need, and it's going to be enough to win them the game.
Cam Jones looked awesome in this game. I mean, it's not a surprise to anyone who's watched Cam Jones play over the last few years, but I mean, goodness, he just did everything. He controlled this game, and Maryland has some guards who are like legitimately good defenders. Like Jacoby Gillespie was an all MVC first team defender. It didn't matter. 28 points for Cam Jones. He was just excellent. He did everything that the Marquette team needed him to do. And he just kind of found buckets late in the game. Like, there was one time he hit a 3 from like nearly half court. That was almost like it felt like the dagger. Like, you're watching that play, you're like, oh goodness, yeah, this game is wrapped. He was awesome. You got good offense from Stevie Mitchell. The key for Marquette this year is going to be who can give you that second offense. For the most part this year, it's been Chase Ross. This game, it was Stevie Mitchell. You got 18 from him, 6-10 from the field, 6-6 from the free throw line. Just enough. And on the other end, Derek Queen was as advertised. He's a one and done. Yep. He's the truth.
Well, Coach, Maryland's big two that we talked about, Derek Queen, Jacoby Gillespie, they both gave 24 apiece. They did all they could do for the Terrapins in this game, but it's kind of the supporting cast. Now, Selton Miguel and Deshaun Harris-Smith gave 9, but really Maryland kind of struggled to get points from outside the big two there. 7 of 19 from the three-point line, which is fine, 36.8%. You'll take that all day. But I just think that for them to be, especially a tournament team, but maybe a team that could win a game in the tournament, They got to find that third person who could consistently help out the big two.
Yeah, without question. I think that's going to be a big thing for them. They're going to, who becomes that consistent third guy, right? Yep. I think they'll probably have a bunch of different guys here early, and that's what all this early season stuff is about. And again, I'm just really loving these early season Power 5 matchups on the home floors. Like we talked about it last week. I even wrote a note down again. Just really, really good, to see all these matchups. And not to go off the Maryland train, but back to Shaka a little bit. We talk about Matt Painter and how he recruits, and you hear him you look at his press conference and listen to him talk about recruiting, about guys that fit him. He doesn't care about stars and blah blah, and it's just been so good. Shaka is another guy that really recruits to what works for him. Good and point. I think the situation he has at Marquette is a really good one. And obviously they've been good. They're going to be good. He does a good job of identifying guys that really work for him. And that's why I think it's kind of a better situation than being at Texas, where you feel that pressure to recruit these top 10, top 20 guys all the time that necessarily don't fit who you are as a coach. And anyway, I just think I wanted to note that and bring that up.
I think that's a great point. And DeRosa, like Marquette, obviously he's had success, so like that leash is a lot longer for him there, maybe as opposed to like being at Texas. But knowing that you've got the support and backing, so if maybe you have a down year, that you're not going to be on the hot seat all of a sudden, allows a Shaka Smart to go out and just kind of like, all right, we'll get this kid. Maybe he's not ready year one, we'll play him, but by year two we could be better. And to go play at Marquette, and Shaka, you got to be athletic. You got to be able to defend. You got to be willing to get up and down the floor, but you got to be a grinder. Like you look at his great VCU teams, every one of those kids would put their bodies on the line for that team. And I don't think he got that all the time in Texas, but at Marquette, he's getting dudes who are willing to do whatever it takes to win.
Exactly. And that's why I think it's a really good fit, and they're fun to watch. And I'm happy for him, that he kind of got back to his niche.
Yeah, like at Texas, you got guys who are halfway out the door knowing they were going pro. Like you told you're a pro your entire life. You want to play pro ball, you're going to play pro ball after just your 1 year in college. And at Marquette, he's getting guys that fit his vision, his system. As you mentioned, the VCU teams, it makes more sense. And like if we're talking about recruiting the way like some of the guys he brought in, Stevie Mitchell's on this team. He's one of their better defenders. They brought in a kid, Adrian Stevens, who's going to come in next year. He's literally just the exact same player. You could just Control C, Control V. They're basically the same guy. So just fits the vision.
Again, by the way, what does that mean? Control what? What are you talking about?
Control V is copy and paste. Control V is paste. Yeah.
Copy and paste. Yeah.
I just want to make sure I stay up to speed. Maybe I learn a couple things from the young guys in this show.
Yeah, it's just copy and paste. Coach.
By the way, if my assistants were listening right now, they're dying laughing somewhere because they believe me. They've been called to my office many times. Help me. Help me.
Last thing on this, we talked about kind of more the minute things for the Wisconsin game. Again, it goes back to the foul line. Like if you look at the stats across the board, 3-point shooting, Maryland 7 of 19, Marquette 8 of 23, basically a wash. You look at rebounding, Maryland had 31, Marquette had 30. Fouls, they both had 18. Turnovers, Marquette had 8 to Maryland's 13, so that was a big difference. But it's the foul line. Marquette went 18 of 24. Maryland went 9 of 14.
Wow.
So just getting there, making it more, and in a 4-point game, that's all it takes, that fine margin of victory. Marquette did a great job getting themselves to the line. I'll ask this, DeRosa and Coach. Cam Jones, born scorer, 28 points in 33 minutes. There's going to be a lot of games where he goes for 28, 30 plus in a lot of games this year. Is he the best pure scorer in college basketball? And if not, would he be top 5, top 10? Where would you rank him? Because this dude is a walking bucket.
Mike, I'll let you go first on that one.
Yeah, so I got to make sure I don't forget any. I mean, he's definitely top 5. Like, just got to look up and down, like, some, like, averages at this point in the season to make sure I don't forget anybody. But it's him or Dixon in the Big East. Eileen Jones, personally, but, like, 1, 2. Yeah, he might just be the best pure scorer in the country, honestly. He's up there, man. Just a walking bucket.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I'm going to go top 5. I mean, top 5. I mean, there's a lot of guys that can score. He's certainly in every conversation of the guys that, in top scorers in the country. No question about it.
I would not be surprised if he doesn't lead or in the top 5 in the nation in scoring this year. And I think honestly, Marquette needs that. Like they need him to go get buckets to kind of steady the ship for him if they want to be good this year. Let's move on to another Big East team. Game happened yesterday at noon in the Centos Center. Xavier 75, Wake Forest 60. This was a good game. I thought Wake would give a better accounting for themselves in a big moment, right? A chance to really solidify a top 25 ranking, start 5-0, coming off of a very good win earlier in the week against Michigan. And we talked about, again, home court advantage matters. The Centos Center can be very brutal to go play in. And I just don't think Wake showed up throughout the course of this game. Their largest lead was 5-3 in the first half. It's kind of indicative of how things went for them. Hunter Salas, 16 points, went 5 of 13 from the floor, 2 3-point makes, made all of his free throws. And then really, David Cosby gave Wake 13 points, but a guy like Efton Reed down low, you thought maybe would give more production in a game like this. He was held to 9 points and 4 rebounds, had 5 turnovers. For their center having 5 turnovers, Coach, I think I'd lose my mind. Yeah, if that was the case.
You talked about their poor shooting. What did they shoot from 3 in the game? It must have been bad again.
5 of 15, so 33.3%.
Didn't get many up though.
Yeah,
no. Well, three of those 5 came from David Cosby. If that tells you that. Well, the only 2 who made it 3. David Cosby went 3 of 5, and then Hunter Salas went 2 of 3. They gotta find somewhere
Parker
else.
Didn't make any again.
No, he played 11 minutes, had 2 points. 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 2 fouls, 1 steal. So he didn't really contribute much 11 minutes off the bench. And that's something, DeRosa, I worry about Wake Forest. Like, I don't think they've got a deep rotation. Like, their starting 5's pretty good. When they're on, Hunter Salas, Trayvon Spillers, Efton Reed, Cam Hildreth, and David Cosby pretty good. Tyler Johnson coming in from Louisville. He had moments last year in that horrendous season, but he had moments where he looked really good. He played 16 minutes, gave him 4 points in this game. I worry about Wake Forest's depth, especially if you're not getting much out of Efton Reed in these type of ball games.
Yeah, especially if you're not getting anything out of Reed. But to me, the story of this game was just having a point guard versus not. That's what it came down to. I don't think Hunter Salas is 2-1. Yeah.
Yes.
And Xavier put Dalen Swain on him for large portions of this game. And Swain is an excellent defender. And you just kind of cut the snake off at its head that he wasn't creating like a ton for other guys. Swain was just able to contain him enough. Salas is going to get his. He's an incredible player. But if you're able to like just kind of restrict their offense, just kind of cut it off a little bit. And yeah, like this is kind of the predictable result. And Xavier's got a true point guard, Davion McKnight. He's not going to like go out there, drop 30 in a game. I mean, he can do it, but like that's not really how he's going to control a game. Rather, he'll have 8 assists, 2 turnovers, just play solid basketball, get scores the ball in their spots, and take over from there. And I really thought that was the difference in this game. And it makes me less optimistic on Wake than I was entering the season.
I wouldn't necessarily be worried about the depth. I understand where you're coming from because they just lost Omaha Blue for 8 to 10 weeks. And I was just texting a buddy from Wake the other day, and I was like, listen, like they won that game the other day against Michigan, of course, and they had a scare against Upstate. They're a team that likes to play with their food early on in the season. I think we've learned that, okay, which is something that, the whole net conversation is going to come up. It's going to come up a lot, and it's going to come up a lot, and they're going to look to those games, and they're going to be frustrated. I wouldn't worry about their depth for a couple of reasons. I would say this, that obviously Parker's still figuring things out. Juke is obviously a true freshman, hit 0 points, but they've got guys that just haven't been in those roles or haven't been in a I would say an accelerated role for somebody like Tyler Johnson, who I think they're going to figure it out. Once he kind of gets flowing as that second change of pace guard, I think they'll be fine. That depth at that specific spot without Omaha is going to be really, really interesting to keep an eye on because, like Michael said, I think that's the best point about this game is that it's the difference of having a point guard versus not. Cam Hildreth he's an incredible player for somebody that's supposed to be so stable for them, and he's been so inconsistent early on, even at the end of last year. 5 turnovers for him, the same as Efton Reed. they don't win games if he has 2 points. Like Cam has to be somebody that has to be aggressive, and Hunter Salas isn't a true point guard. So that's just something that they're just going to have to figure out once they understand what they are and how they can do that. And let's be honest for a second, there aren't many coaches in the country that are better at developing point guards in the last 3 to 5 years than Steve Forbes. Yeah. So I think they're going to be fine. It's just a matter of that Omaha spot's going to, I think, hurt them longer. Because he's coming back. His projected timeline is like the middle of that stretch when they play UConn, they play UNC and Duke back to back.
That'd be a good time.
That would not. I disagree because like he's not going to be ready.
Oh, I hear you. Well,
he's not going to be ready. He needed this time to get used to this team and to get used to being able to play in this offense. And I'm not sure he's going to be ready for that. I think he'll be like 8 minutes a game when he comes back.
Interesting.
Coach, I want to ask you something real quick. Hunter Salas played all 40 minutes in this game. Now, we know he's Wake's best player. He's their All-American candidate. But I think there's something to be said because we talked, if you go a couple of years ago on this show when Indiana was playing Trace Jackson Davis 40 minutes every single night, or like 38, 39, 40 every night. About February, we kept talking. We're like, man, he's going to start wearing down. And then Indiana gets to the tournament. They win that game in Dayton, but then get blown out by St. Mary. And down the stretch, TJD wasn't as great and as sharp as he was at the beginning of the year. If Wake is insistent on playing Hunter Salas 38, 39, 40 minutes a game, I don't think that's a good thing either, Coach. How would you handle that? Knowing he's your best player and he gives you the best shot at winning, but man, the kid needs a blow here and there, right?
So, yes. Here's the thing I'll tell you, because, look, I've had, good players, really good players at Rice and, Oliveri and Evie and even Max. And you're like, you have such great trust in them. And as they get older, you have trust in them being honest with you. Right. But the problem sometimes is, some of those kids, they're so competitive that they're, very reluctant to say, give me a blow here. So you almost have to control that.
Yeah. You must have to protect them from themselves, right?
Yes. And it's hard because look, they're down a player. You trust this kid. He's your best player. And the staff is telling me, get him a break. And I'm like, who you want to put in? Like, we're down 7. If he goes out now and we're down 13, it's not going to matter. So there's so many things going through your mind. And next thing you know, he didn't come out. And you're like, damn, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this. I can't play this kid 40 minutes every night. And I think you'll see that hopefully they won't and don't have to, because you were exactly right. That stuff, it eventually catches up to you unless the kid is such an elite athlete. Even still, so 40 minutes a night is hard.
It's brutal. I don't feel like we've talked enough about the winning team in this game. Xavier did win by 15. Ryan Conwell, 21 points, 4 of 11 from three-point line. DeRosa mentioned Davion McKnight. I remember watching him a couple of years ago at Western Kentucky.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you had a front row seat to it, didn't you?
Close and personal. Yeah.
Very good kid, man. Very talented. Zach Fremantle pitches an 11 here. Xavier is one of those teams. They got a lot of preseason kind of hype of maybe they could contend with UConn in the Big East. I think they're just going to be one of those teams that's going to slowly build over the course of the year. I kind of like their depth a little bit. I think they've got good backup guards that come in. Jerome Hunter come in and off the bench as an experienced kind of 4 or 5 man in this role. DeRosa, when you look at Xavier, this is obviously a really good win for them on the resume, the net ranking when it comes out eventually and all that. When you look at Xavier, what do you see moving forward? Because I do think their pieces are good.
They've got pieces. I think you're definitely got – I don't know how they're going to be great defensively. Like, I don't think Wake put a ton of pressure on them and really tested Xavier's defense. That's definitely a question I still have with this group. But they're going to be good. They're going to be able to score the hell out of the ball. Ryan Conwell is awesome. I mentioned him at length this offseason. I'll do it again. He's awesome. He's just so good. That this Xavier team is going to be really good offensively. They're going to be able to score. They're going to be able to put up with teams. It's just a matter of, can they defend? Can they get consistent stops? But yeah, they were a team that got preseason top 25 hype. I didn't go that far. But if we were making a preseason top 25 in the hopes that these would be the best 25 teams at the end of the season, I probably would have Xavier on there. If that makes sense. I just think it would take them time to develop. But yeah, they're going to be excellent offensively. They're going to be really, really good on that end.
And Sean had to feel great about holding that team to 60.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Of course. You look at Xavier's next couple. We did this with Alabama. I mean, they're shooting 42.9% from three. Excellent. 17th in the nation right now. They're making their free throws. They're 8th in the nation right now. 83% from the foul line. That's winning recipes right there. And you look at their schedule. They're 4-0. I mean, honestly, Siena, South Carolina should honestly be a win. South Carolina State, TCU. Now we're talking 8-0. I mean, TCU will give them more of a game because that is a true road game on the road there in TCU. Morgan State potentially 9-0. Then you get to that matchup Saturday, December 14th with the cross-city rival in Cincinnati. There's a chance Xavier could be off to a really special start. You beat them, then you got UConn after that you'll worry about. But I think there's a legitimate shot we get to December 14th and that showdown against Cincinnati that Xavier's 8-0, 9-0, whatever it was I just said.
They've answered every question I had about them through this point of the season so far. And I know that seems crazy with 4, but like when you lay the schedule out in front of you, if what Cincinnati win would be 10-0.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're not a top 10 team in the country at that point.
Oh, I agree. And going into the Connecticut game, first game of Big East play on that December 18th, 10-0, I think would do it because Cincinnati's in our top 25s. I love the Cincinnati team. And
DeRosa,
you get that.
You might know this off the top of your head. Isn't UConn like really bad record-wise in openers under Hurley, Big East openers? And they have Xavier to open?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know like the record-wise, but narrative-wise, it feels about right.
I'm pretty sure I saw it like a couple weeks ago. I'm pretty sure it's bad. Like I'm pretty sure it's like they've lost quite a few.
I think
openers.
They lost to Seton Hall in their opener last year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
they did.
Right.
Yeah.
Guys, the stories write themselves.
Hey,
well, how about this for Xavier? We're going to find out a lot about them in that 3-game stretch. December 14th against Cincinnati on the road. December 18th against Connecticut on the road. December 21st, Marquette. That is a 3-game stretch. We're going to find out to close out December what we have in Xavier fully. And it'd be interesting to see how they do in that 3.
Well, I hope – I don't know if I want Sean and Mike to be listening to this podcast today because we have Xavier 10-0 versus UConn, and we got Mike 7-0 versus Purdue in early December matchups. They both would cuss me out if they knew I was doing this to them. So
that's what we do. Hey, how about this for Xavier, too? Offensively, again, we keep talking about it. They're first in the nation in assists to made field goals. That means they're sharing the ball. 78.7% of their made field goals come off of an assist. Sharing the basketball. It's the same thing we've talked about Kentucky about how fun the offense is. I mean, there's pieces there for Xavier to be really, really special this year. Let's talk about just some real quick ones that you guys want to bring up from this weekend. I want to stay on the theme of the Big Ten. Indiana yesterday. I mean, obviously South Carolina is not as good as they were last year. We all know this. But Indiana, home game, their first real big game of the year in that pretty weak non-con. And they dominate the game, 87-71. I thought Indiana looked good, not great, but they did make 8 3-point shots, which is encouraging to see. Miles Rice was phenomenal, 23 points. Mackenzie Mbako, 17, continues to be Indiana's best, I think, best player. I think he's their best player. When he's rolling like this, I think he's their best player. They got 13 from Malik Renew, Kanan Carlisle, 12 points. I don't know if you guys saw this play, the damnedest thing I've ever seen. He went to throw a pass from probably 25, 30 feet on a high low to Mackenzie Mbako, who had a seal. You know, you throw it towards the back part of the backboard there and let your guy go get it. He threw it so hard, so off target, it banked in for a 3. It was supposed to be a high-low lob. I've never seen that before. But when that happens, it's your day.
Did you see the play before that, Josh, too? Mbakpo, who, to be clear, played a very good game. This was probably like his one big mistake this game. He was great in the game. He gets the ball in the perimeter, shot fakes a 3, just kind of waits for a second, inches like half a step forward to be foot on the line, takes a contested 2 and airballs it. Then South Carolina goes down. I don't remember what happened. I don't remember if it was a turnover. They just missed a shot. Then that banked in 3 happened. I turned on the game. Those were the first 2 plays I saw. I'm like, oh.
That's crazy. Good win for Indiana, though. Like, South Carolina is just going to struggle. Like, I think last year was an anomaly. Now, if they had Michi Johnson and maybe a couple of those other guys, they could have sustained it, but it's going to be a struggle. Nick Pringle was good in stretches, 13. They got 18 off the bench from Morris Ugasek. But they need, in order for them to win, they've got to rely on a tough defense in the half court. They got to get Miles Studi shooting the ball. 3 of 11 is just really not going to cut it. And Colin Murray Boyle's fouled out. You get 2 points. He's got to be their star. He was the guy that could have been all SEC first team or second team. He's got to show up. Indiana size really bothered him. So I think it's going to be a long year for South Carolina. And Indiana, not a great non-con, but you're passing the test. You have to. We'll see. We'll find out about Indiana at the end of this month here in a couple weeks when they play Louisville in the first game in that battle for Atlantis. If they win, they're probably going to play Gonzaga. We'll find out a lot about Indiana over the holiday break, but so far so good for the Hoosiers. You guys got any other games you want to touch on from this weekend that kind of caught your eye?
Yeah, I'll start since obviously I jumped in later here. The LSU Kansas State was kind of surprising. I know that the 3-0. I know McMahon's an incredible coach, but I don't know. You pay what is it, the $2 million check for McDaniel and for Hawkins, and you go out and you lose at home to LSU early in the year. I think that's a bad look. That's something they've got to kind of look internally at. Arizona State GCU. That was one of the best games of the week. I'm not going to say anything. I knew you were probably going to do that. So that was just. I will say it was one of the best games of the week because of the time slot where it was. There was really nothing competing with it. Thursday Night Football. I didn't even turn on Thursday Night Football on Thursday. I didn't because that game was on. We'll touch on that in just a second, and then I'll hit two really fast that I think are really worth mentioning. That Charleston buzzer beater might be it might have been the game of the week or game of the year. It might have been the shot of the year. It might have been the play of the year by arguably one of the best players of the year. Like this guy, I watched this guy like so much last year in some of these games down here in this area with Charleston. And I'm telling you, I didn't see this kind of ascension for him. Like, this is incredible what Chris Mack has done to continue to develop and evolve his game. Obviously, Chris Mack is not, helping him make that running three. Like, let's just be real for a second, right? That's all Berzovich. But
he wanted him to shoot it.
And he trusts him. This is something that, like, I think this team is – I'm not saying they're better than last year. I'm not saying that. But Charleston, I said it in the magazine. I ended their preview with this. I said, Chris Mack is a good enough coach to come in, and it's Charleston's league to lose. I don't think that they because of a new coach and because of a new roster, we should expect them to not be the favorite again. And they just showed against I think we should realize it's a very good FAU team and a really good event down there in Charleston that they're an incredible team to stop. And then I'll just mention UAB High Point because I was there, an incredible atmosphere, an incredible place that I have not had a chance to experience yet. I think it speaks more about what High Point is as a team that should have made the NCAA tournament last year. Let's be real, like 30 wins to lose to Longwood to not make it. Like that's a huge it's a huge thing for them to look ahead at and be like, that is the lion at the end of the tunnel kind of thing. And like the beast that they have to slay. And UAB played that game exactly into the way they wanted it to. Indy Kennedy likes to make those games gross, play in the mud. They did exactly that. And High Point still won the game. Obviously, I know it was at home. I know the crowds were 2-3, whatever. It was a 3-point game at the end. But I was like unbelievably impressed with High Point, and I don't know if they lose a game this year.
How about Andy Kennedy playing that game?
Yes. I didn't get a chance to talk to him about it, unfortunately, but the underlying thought.
We'll have him on, but
I would love to also.
I want to ask him that question.
I want to ask about Yaxel. I want to ask him about all kinds of things. The one thing I'll say is that I know I'm not going to step on any toes here, but I know that nobody wanted to schedule High Point. It got to a point where their schedule, they had to go out and they had to fork it. Not that they don't have the money. Let's be upfront. But they had to go out and they had to fork some money out to get these games. And you look at their schedule. They play UAB. They've already played a tough couple of games early on in the year. They played North Texas next Friday. They paid another game at the Cubane Center. Like that's a team that if they can get through this stretch here, after what we've seen from Winthrop a couple times, we had some friends at the Winthrop game yesterday. I'm not sure. Again, if they make it to Big South play undefeated, they're probably not losing a game.
Wow.
Well, see, that's the compelling thought, right? We mentioned it on Thursday about there's a lot of people who think that High Point could run the table this year. And I want to bring – well, yeah. I want to circle back just real quick to Charleston.
Yeah.
Played 3 games. Really good win against a good Southern Illinois team. Good win against a South Florida team. We know the circumstances, but still win by 15. And then a good win against a good Florida Atlantic team. 2 very good wins to start the year. Here's the thing I don't understand about these metrics. If you look on KenPom, they got the 73rd best offense as far as adjusted efficiency, but they've scored 90, 86, and 119. How the hell is that 73rd? I don't understand it.
It's higher than they were last year, though, through this
That's
point
crazy.
in the season. It's higher than they were last year with this point of the season. So that keeps you an idea. I don't know all the back end work at Ken Pom.
Yeah.
I'm the wrong guy for that. I think not really any of us other than Ken is probably the only person that needs to answer that. But at the end of the day,
I'm fourth on this show on that. So
but at the end of the day, like that just shows you a testament to Chris Mack, how much they're improving, how much they're better.
I mean, that's a lot of points to be scored.
To attempt to answer some of the questions on Ken Pom, I'm assuming it's partially based on who they've played, but two, you're definitely still baking in some preseason stuff because we're only 4 games into the season.
Yeah,
you've definitely got a lot of like the preseason projections still baked in. That
when do they expire? Like he said it before many times.
I think I think around January they just like it's almost all. Yeah.
Oh geez.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like it'll like grandfather in. So like the more games we have, the less the preseason matters. Probably by December it'll be more emphasis on what's happened than the preseason. But then January it's like completely gone.
I want to circle
this
back
early
to
is still a guess. Like it's still ultimate. He's still guessing like everyone else is. So that makes sense.
I want to circle back to the ASU Grand Canyon game.
Yes, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Get a little backstory. So when I was at ASU in, I guess it might have been somewhere around 08. I don't think James played in this game, but Grand Canyon was Division II. And Coach Sendek agreed. Ironically, it was Coach Russ Pennell who became my assistant at Rice. Later, he was the head coach at Grand Canyon when they were Division II, before they went D1. And we played an exhibition game at Grand Canyon back then. And it started then with the whole crowd and the students and whatever. And then, so think about how far they've come. And I'm guessing around a 15-year period. I mean, maybe less. And for ASU and Grand Canyon to play that game in that arena, in that environment, like it was just really, really cool. And two good teams. And ASU's right now is playing well. And they've had a hell of an early season schedule, by the way. Santa Clara, Gonzaga, Grand Canyon.
Yep.
I mean,
your point about where they've come, I'm glad you mentioned that because I had a friend down there the other day for their game against Western Kentucky, Ryan Hammer. I've talked about him on the show before, one of the best guys in college basketball content. He was down there to try to just get an idea of like, because people say all the time, they're like, is Grand Canyon even real? And all the jokes, like when they made the tournament, like it makes up people who don't watch until March just didn't even know. Like it sounds like a fake school until you like kind of break it down. And if you really think about what they've like, everyone wants to say like for a mid-major, low-major program, like what's your goal? Like what are you looking forward at to build, right? I don't care. Obviously, not everywhere has Bryce Drew, but the sentiment would be what Grand Canyon has done in the last 15 years. I get no football, but that's your goal. You need to look at whatever they've done. We need to case study this. And every team, I know it's money. I know it's an expensive school.
I'm going to tell you what it is.
But think about this, though. Think about Charleston's. Think about UNCW's. Think about High Point is a good example, right? These are really, really rich, expensive schools. If the recipes for success, if you're, I don't know, Winthrop or whatever out there, I don't know, they're successful as well. But like if you're trying to grow to a level to where you're Grand Canyon, like it needs to be studied to figure out what the heck they've done, because again, 15 years is, but you have to win too, though. It's not just money. You have to win. The quality of talent, the quality of coach, the fact that he's not been poached is crazy.
But you're right. No, I'm giving them all the credit in the world, but Jerry Colangelo's involved.
Yeah,
they devoted tons of resources to that basketball program being good. And usually when you do that, and look, they got a great coach too, so it's really a really good, right? You said it's a great study, and it's really well done, and it's working out really well. I mean,
I tell you where I think,
to your point,
the first time I heard of Grand Canyon, it was like 10 years ago. They played I think it might have been opening game or second game for Kentucky. They played Kentucky and Rupp, and Thunder Dan Marley was their coach. And I think him and his kind of allure, especially down in that Arizona, Tempe, Phoenix area, I think that kind of built their profile, began it. And then we've seen where Bryce Drew and kind of the successes went off of it. But yeah, don't forget Thunder Dan was their coach and really got some eyeballs on the program.
Jerry Colangelo. That's why he hired Thunder Dan. They got rid of Russ when they went Division I. They told Russ, "You're out." Hired Marley. Colangelo factor again, and that's where they began to build it. And then they got this student following of all these commuter students that go to this school, Grand Canyon, to go to these games by putting stuff outside, making it a huge event. And now and now they have tradition.
I highly recommend people go watch Ryan's video. He did like a vlog style walk around the campus, get to know the day before. Like wasn't just the game day. This is students lined up. There was hundreds and hundreds of tents. This is a what game in November against Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
And they had people in tents, they had people sprinting to the seats. We
They
all know what the environment looks
They've
like.
got a tradition going.
And
it's a good recruiting tool. You just show projected, not even talent, but you show students who maybe want to go there for academics. You show them, come be a part of this, the weather and all that. So, hey, we forgot to mention, so we won't spend long on it. I just want to bring up, I forgot to mention that Texas A&M 78, number 25, Ohio State 64. Wade Taylor the fourth had a good game, 15 points. Big win. We talked about needing a bounce back win from Texas A&M there. They held home court. That's a tough place to play. That is a brutal place to play. And they got the game where they wanted, kind of mucked it up, and then their star took over. So good win. Anything else from the weekend you guys want to just bring up real quick before we move on?
That was it for me. Just no score. No, the A&M thing was impressive, though. Like, I had people questioning me. I had them 25 after that first week and I had a lot of questions about that. And I was like, I had them 11th, I think, before that preseason. Like, I'm really high on this Texas A&M team. They responded.
Yeah.
All right, let's look ahead to the early week matchups. It's not as good as the last couple weeks have been, but we have two very high-profile games in the early part of this upcoming week. Let's start with number 14 Purdue at number 15 Marquette on Tuesday night. Both these teams we just talked about pretty in-depth, coming off big-time wins on the weekend. Purdue carrying that momentum from Alabama, going on a true road environment up to Marquette. DeRosa, I think this one is a battle of guard play. And if Trey Kaufman-Renn could continue what he did against Alabama against a different style in Marquette.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm assuming you also can get away with going small here because I still think TKR can move.
I think so. Yeah, I do.
And I don't know, defensively, I think this game's going to be really interesting because, I mean, could you make a better guard battle than the last two games, Braden Smith, Mark Sears, and then Braden Smith, Cam Jones? Like those are those the three best guards in the country? They're up there. They are up there. They very well could be the three best guards in the country. So it's just
at this current moment, yes, I want to include that at this current moment because that includes a lot of guys that had some interesting weekends. But yes, at this moment, yes.
So it's this game's going to be really fun. Home environment, Pfizer's going to be popping. This is going to be a really, really fun game. It's just, I think it'll come down. We know what we're getting from those guys. We know what we're getting from TKR. It'll come down to the supporting cast of both teams. Who's going to be that second scorer for Marquette? Is it going to be Chase Ross, who's been excellent this year? Is David Joplin finally going to have one of those games where he really shows up? Because he hasn't really had that yet. Is Stevie Mitchell able to put up 18 again? We'll see. I have no confidence in this pick whatsoever. I'm going to slightly lean Purdue, but this is going to be an awesome game. I'm very excited to watch it, and I really cannot wait for this one. This is going to be awesome.
Here's the game that I think Wilberg has to play well. Stay out of foul trouble. He doesn't have to go for big numbers, but if he could get something like 10 and 7, it'll help boost my confidence Purdue winning this game because going against Ben Gold, got the size advantage, should be able to pull him away from the rim a little bit, even as just as a passer. But I think he's got to stay out of foul trouble. Or, I mean, we talked about TKR could go to the 5, but I think Painter really wants him to be successful with Wilberg being good at that center spot because being 7'2" and all the things he can do. Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer continue to just do what they do. Lawyer is going to make threes. Braden Smith's going to be the floor general control and the pace and play of the game. We talked about Marquette with Cam Jones making shots. He's going to get – you go ahead and pencil him in for 25+. Regardless what happens, he's going to get 25+ in this game. So, Coach, I'll come to you. I think this is a very even matchup. Do you favor Marquette giving them the home court advantage, or have you seen enough for Purdue to be like, man, they can go get a big-time road victory here?
Well, kind of yes to both, but I'm going to lean Marquette. Just home court, yes. And the fact that Purdue's got to do this Alabama-Marquette kind of back-to-back and go on the road, look, if they get the win, it's really impressive. I mean, I'm already impressed. Well, even if they lose it, a good game here. But I'm gonna give Marquette a slight lean.
There's a big disparity in this game that I think we haven't mentioned yet, and it's that Marquette does these two things better than Purdue by a lot, and it's turn the ball over, like forced turnover, excuse me, and take care of the ball. Purdue is still figuring that out, at least statistically throughout the beginning part of the year. Marquette is top 25 in both in KenPom. And so I think that is where, especially in the Maryland game, like coming into this, like when you think about where they're coming off of, that Maryland played that game really, really good and really, really close. And I always lean towards the team that has the better player. And right now, to me, that's Cam Jones. And if they can control the ball, Marquette wins this game, I think, pretty easily.
So that's 4 Marquettes. What do you say, Josh?
Well, I'll give you – I like the stat you just threw out there about turning the ball over, but I'll say this. Purdue's 6th in the nation right now, three-point shooting. 46%.
Yeah, it's a huge disparity. Yeah.
Great neutralizer.
Here's the one thing that I'm going to be watching out for. Can you get another 13 points off the bench from CJ Cox? I don't know if that's something you can expect every game. If he can give you 7 or 8, then you got to like Purdue's chances even more. But Purdue, I think, needs, whether it be CJ Cox, whether it be a Jakari Harris or a Will Berg or somebody, Ethan Burgess off the bench. They need somebody to kind of step up in these big games to give them production that they don't normally expect out of them. That's what happened in Alabama. If they're going to beat Marquette, I think it's got to happen here. I lean Purdue. I've learned over the years, Matt Painter, when he gets a team he really likes, he just wins games. Everybody wants to say about, he had 7'4" Edey. No. Painter, look at his history at Purdue. You go back to Robbie Hummel and E'Twaun Moore and Jawan Johnson and whoever you want to say. When they have players that he believes and trusts in, they refine their system, they play good defense, and they make shots. Purdue's doing that right now. I think he loves his team. I got Purdue going up and getting a big-time road victory. It'll be a close one. It'll be something like 81-80, but Purdue wins.
This is the game day. So he didn't go all 4. So Josh went against the 3.
I tell you what.
Don't bet against Matt Painter is what I've learned.
Yeah.
Hey, they just need to keep the sights in front of them because this is the game. They beat Marquette, but they still got the buzzsaw of the North Carolina State Wolfpack in 2 games, so they got to figure that.
By the way, Trevor,
neutral site, by the way.
I got a comment on the Guns N' Roses hat.
Thank you.
Absolutely big fan. Love the hat.
Got it on my honeymoon, actually.
All right,
that's cool.
Hey, is it raining out there so you can have a little November rain out in North Carolina?
No, please God, keep the rain away. I need to.
Yeah. All right, I love it. No, I love Guns N' Roses as well. And let's go to Wednesday night. Another, I was about to say top 25 matchup here, but Illinois is not ranked. They should be. We'll see what happens on voting this week. But Illinois goes to Alabama, but not really. It's a true home court because it's being played in Birmingham, but we're not dumb. It's a home court for Alabama. Number 2, coming off the loss to Purdue. We talked about earlier in the show about Alabama's brutal stretch they're in the midst of right here. Illinois is next on that list, playing in Birmingham. Coach, I'll come to you first. Alabama, can they get back on track? Illinois, I think, is going to be willing to play up and down with them, which I think is going to be a huge mistake from the Illini. And I think this is a bounce-back spot for Alabama.
Me too, and I think they have to have it. Just based on what you've read and what that looks like moving forward, coming off the loss, I'm not saying Illinois can't win. They can. But I think this is one Alabama has to have.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Again, it's not true home court, but it is. It's in the state, so it's a home court. And then coming off the loss, man, they're going to want to play as fast as possible. And I think Illinois they want to get up and down the floor with them too. And I don't know how that's going to be. I will say this, though. If Illinois can get some good stuff out of Tomislav Ivicic, have that 7-1 kind of unicorn spot, if they can get some stuff out of Kylan Boswell, this will be a better game than what many maybe think it will be. But DeRosa, I just don't see how Alabama takes 2 L's in a row, especially if Illinois is willing to get up and down the floor with them.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this Illinois roster, like some of the guys you're counting on. Tomislav Ivicic, freshman. Will Riley, reclass freshman. He moved up to play college basketball this year. Kasparis, I'm going to end up butchering this name, so I apologize. Jakushionis, I believe is –
That's good enough for me. Good enough for me.
Good enough for me. Yeah, I think we got I'm going to go with Bama by TKL. I think youth versus experience, you're getting a team that's going to play a similar style. I think Bama smokes them.
Trevor, I was going to tee you up for this. If you're betting on Illinois, you can hang your hat on their defense through the first 3. They're holding teams at 23% from the 3-point line, which is 14th best in the nation early on. if they can defend the 3 against Alabama and make them go cold to start the game like they against Purdue where they were like 0 of 9, then they've got a fighting chance in this one.
So you always do this to me. You always tee me up to like try to pick the other team that everyone hasn't picked yet. You do it all the time. You do it every time. Go watch.
I'm good at what I do, man.
You're not, because you keep pulling me into this like pick Illinois thing, and it's like it's not happening. I'm just not. Like, you do that all the time. Stop teeing me up for a team I don't like. No, I'm kidding. So I made the joke earlier. I actually teed myself up for something. Last segment there, I just talked about Purdue, and I teed up this NC State thing, and it was a joke. But I was also thinking ahead with a little bit, knowing we're talking about Alabama next. Alabama needs to not look ahead. They play Houston next.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Illinois is a team that they can't take lightly, because I know that Mark Sears is an incredible player. I know Nate Oates is obviously an incredible coach. But that happens, right, Coach? That happens. Teams look ahead more than they should. And look,
Yes.
You're going to give me the same answer every coach this week I've talked to gives me is, well, we take games one at a time.
Players do.
Okay, good point. Yep.
Players will, and that you're part of your job as a coach is to keep those blinders as much as you can.
Yes.
On. And the good news for the Alabama program is and for Coach Oates is they lost. Had they beaten, then it would have even been harder.
Yeah.
Because then they're seeing, now we can go in this. I think he has their attention. Your point is very valid. The coaches, I promise you, and me included, I did not. I had a hard time knowing who we played next, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but I didn't want to know. I looked at the preseason schedule, kind of do that fun game of W and L, all that fun stuff, in September. But then once we started, I didn't allow myself to see that, and so because they lost that, but it's the kids who look ahead. They do. They're kids.
Yeah. I only bring it up because it's my favorite question after every game, even if it's coaches I've known for years, and I go, all right. You know what I'm about to ask. You're about to go on the road for 4 games. You're about to play this team. You're about to play that team. And they're like, I don't even know who I was playing next.
Trevor, I wish I could tell you how true it is. It's true.
It's true.
For most guys. Maybe some guys don't give a crap, and they know. I operated best just keeping my head straight down.
Yep. To answer the game point, I think Alabama wins this one. I think Illinois is not experienced enough. I think DeRosa handled that correctly there. The one thing I want to continue to monitor is they got to figure out what the offense looks like when Cliff's on the floor. I think that's where they've struggled the most, and I think that's something that it's been said. I'm not breaking any news with that point, but I think it's a really, really big glaring spot for them as their schedule continues to get even harder, which is crazy to think it's getting harder when they've played McNeese, Purdue, Illinois, and Houston, and then it actually gets harder, North Carolina, Creighton, and then they obviously go into SEC play, which is incredible.
It's insane.
Yeah, we talked about that stretch that they're in the midst of.
They'll be prepared. Brutal. They'll be the most prepared team in the country, without a doubt.
Yep.
We have a listener who wants to talk about the Penn State game.
Yep, I was about to bring that up. Let me bring that back up. Shoot.
Gotcha.
CR says Wednesday night we'll be at the Fort Wayne Penn State game. Can you talk about that game a little bit? Yeah, I mean, here's what I'll say. I covered it used to be IPFW. It's Purdue Fort Wayne now in the Horizon League. I think they should win that conference. They have got 2 incredible guards, Jalen Jackson, Rasheed Bello, that it's going to put a lot of pressure on Penn State's defense. In the last game against Southern Indiana in a 93-74 victory, Jalen Jackson went for 29, and Bello went for 18. These 2 guards, if you're just talking about underrated guards or one of these small teams that get in the NCAA tournament that could cause some havoc, especially with backcourt play being so prevalent, Purdue Fort Wayne's got a team that could, you look up and they win an NCAA tournament game because Bello Jackson are that good. Offensively, I think they're really going to put pressure on Penn State, but I think at the end of the day, Penn State's on a roll. We've talked about they've scored multiple 100-point games already. Penn State should win this game and probably fairly comfortable at the end, but I wouldn't be surprised for 36 minutes if Purdue Fort Wayne doesn't give them a scare.
So there you go, CR. You're going to see a great guard matchup and a team that might actually, have a chance to win their league. So you might see a good game on Wednesday night in Happy Valley. Hopefully, my Lions, and I'm representing them today, by the way. Hopefully they get the win.
Yeah, I really like this Purdue Fort Wayne team, but I favor Penn State in that game. Good game to check out, though, if you ain't got nothing else going on. Let's start wrapping things up today. Let's do bank on it. So far, I think I'm 0 for 2 in bank on it, but I went a little easier this week, or at least I think it's easier, to try to get myself on the board. My bank on it this week, we talked about it. Against Purdue, I think Cam Jones goes for 30+. I just got to do something to get myself on the board. I feel confident in that. he will go for 30 plus, even though I think Purdue wins the game. Bank on it for this week. Next.
Am I next?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, my bank on it. I hit my first one. I didn't get a chance to do the second one, but I'm going to go back to Indiana and my guy PK. Marion University gets the upset Wednesday night against Grace, 21st ranked Grace. Pat Knight, Marion University, bank on it.
I love it. I love it. NAIA action right there. I love it.
You don't get that anywhere, Josh. You don't get that just anywhere. NAIA
of course not. We talk about everything. I love it. Go ahead, DeRosa.
Yeah, I'm struggling to find one. I'm not gonna lie. If we were gonna do one on the Saturday, when was the last time we did a show? Was it Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday. Yeah.
On the Thursday show, it would have been Jake Paul by decision. So,
Oh, that was good. That was great.
Yeah. I'm down to a couple. I was gonna pick a greasy game and say it scores over 100 points. That would over 100, over 200 points. That would have been Florida A&M, Florida. I'm just gonna stick with the one I'm really confident in. Alabama lays a smackdown in Illinois. 15-20 plus. Smackdown.
I love it. Trev?
Okay, so we skipped over some other games this week, but really there's actually not a ton. Like you said, it's a little bit of things are kind of coming down before feast week. But I don't have the spread because I can't find it, because if you're betting on this game this many days out, you're a sicko. So I'll just say this knowing whatever it is. Michael, if you can find it very fast, that'd be amazing. I think UNCW covers the spread at Kansas. I don't care what it is, 28.5, 38.5, don't care. UNCW has 4. They obviously beat Kentucky last year at Rupp. We know that. They have a winning record against Kentucky in this century. Fun fact. And then also the fact that they've won really hard games so far this year early on. I know Upstate is a team that just they played Wake really close, and then UNCW goes to Upstate yesterday and wins the game close as well. Like they've just played tough games. They're a team that's, I think, figuring themselves earlier. And obviously I'm the CAA guy here, so of course I'm going to bring this up. But Kansas obviously has questions. There's things that we've had, right? UNCW knows how to prepare for these games. Takeo Siddle is one of the best coaches in the country at this level, and he's going to have those guys prepared. Talk about not looking ahead. They're going to be ready for this game on Monday, Tuesday, whatever, right? They're getting ready for it. And I think they cover the spread. I think that's a good bet. Bank on it.
I love it. Kansas
it'll be like low 20s. Like Ken Palm has it 21. It'll probably be like 21, 22, 23.
They cover the spread. There we go.
Kansas, we know how Kansas is too. They're prone to have sort of a letdown after a big game, and they've had a couple here in a row. I see a spot where, maybe they overlook them a little bit. I like that. Let's round this out with shout-outs. I've got 2 for this week. One goes to Mackey Arena. We talked about it Thursday. Again, I'm going out on a limb and saying that behind Allen Fieldhouse, Mackey Arena is the second best home court advantage in college basketball. 72 or whatever it is, straight sellouts. That crowd's electric. They showed up in force against Alabama, and it's going to be tough to go up there and get a win right now. And then the second one, we'll go to the women's game. Kenny Brooks for the University of Kentucky was a great hire coming in from Virginia Tech. They played the first rendition in his era against Louisville in the Bluegrass Showdown. 2 top 20 teams yesterday, found themselves down, rallied to come back and win it overtime behind All-American Georgia Amore. Kenny Brooks was one of the best hires in the just college basketball period this year for what he's able to do. Had a Final Four of Virginia Tech. You already see recruiting, got 2 5-star commitments this week, one for next year, one for the class of 2026. He's building something special in Lexington for the women's program. They're going to be really good this year. Hell of a win. L's down. Shout out Kenny Brooks and company for the women's team over in Kentucky. Whoever wants to go next.
I mean, I've had shout outs from NAIA schools to Division III girls to high school girls volleyball. I've covered the gamut here. So, I'm just going to give a shout out, and to emphasize how much I've enjoyed these early season home floor, kind of not all neutral. There's been some, there's still some, but the on campus Power 4 games that have gone on and are going to continue to go on here even more this week. Just been a lot of fun, and hope it continues. And kudos to those coaches, and including even Andy Kennedy for playing the game he played. Just makes it so much fun on this side of it. Not so much fun when I was on the other side of it sometimes, but it's been enjoyable.
Love it.
DeRosa, you want to go next?
Yeah, I got one. This was a team that I had a ton of trouble ranking when I wrote the Mountain West for the magazine. I had no idea where to put them. They had a really wide range of outcomes. They've started the season really well, 4-0, with a win over Washington early in the season. Then the other day, they laid a smackdown on a very talented Santa Clara team. This Nevada team looks good. Nick Davidson looks like the all Mountain West player we expect him to be. But at the point guard, I had questions. I didn't know what you were going to get out of Kobe Sanders. Sanders is a Cal Poly transfer, 6'9". He's looked really good so far to start the season. He's averaging 4.8 assists to just 1.8 turnovers. He's doing his job. He gets to the rim really effectively. It's going to be a tough matchup for Nevada. They head over to the Charleston Classic. You start off with Vanderbilt. That's a talented Vanderbilt team. They've also 4-0, had a very good game against Cal this week. Then you play, if you win that game, you, in my opinion, very likely play VCU, who's looked really good this year. Nevada looks good. And those three teams, Seton Hall's underperformed, but those three teams on the bottom of that bracket, those are going to put up some really good games. We're going to go with Nevada. Shout out Nevada.
I love it. Steve Alford and company. I love it.
I've got a few because I've been on a pod in a while. I'll be very quick, I promise. Shout out to Rick Pitino for just continuously being himself. Before this game today, they won 85-71. He was like, I'm telling all my family to root for my brother and sit behind his bench or whatever, and I'll win regardless whether the win happens. And it's just the funniest, most Rick Pitino thing to say. Shout out to these MTEs around this time of year. Charleston Classic is one of them. Myrtle Beach Invitational, not going to be able to make this year. I was planning to, but that's a big tournament that Michael alluded to there. There's actually a really, really good field in a lot of those before kind of the Atlantises and such. Shout out to the SIDs of the world. We wouldn't be able to do a big part of our job without them. I tweeted about this the other day, but it was National Sports Communications something week. I'm not giving it justice, but the SIDs are a huge part of what we do, and I have to give them a shout out. I feel like all the time. I feel like I do, but that was their week, and I made sure I talked to the folks that I'm close to and have helped me out with going to games, being able to go to all these places and be fortunate enough to do that. So shout out to all those people that make college sports run. I know, Coach, you understand how important those people are to your job and how important that was. And then lastly, to Josh's sister, I got my shirt in the mail finally.
Yeah!
Everything college basketball. You probably can't hear me, but it's up here. I've got it. Shout out to our boy Phil, who can't be making it, but he's been helpful behind the scenes. I'm somewhere behind this t-shirt, this 2X, my fat tail. But shout out to Phil and his work right now. He's been doing a lot of great work with DraftKings and can't really reveal much more than that. But he's on here. We all made it. And incredible shirt. Thank you to your sister. And thanks for covering the shipping. So
yeah, you're good.
Mwah!
And
that was all five of mine.
Appreciate it. One bit of news real quick before we get out of here. DeRosa, all of us here, we've decided we're trying to really step up our content. We are very adamant. We're really close to our national breakthrough, so we're going to start doing a lot more. Starting tomorrow, we've been taking email listings for people who want to be a part of us. Starting tomorrow, every day through the college basketball season, you will get an email directly to your email with the ECB daily bets. We will cover whether it be FanDuel, DraftKings, whoever we decide to use. We will give you kind of our best bets for a parlay for that day's action, tell you what potential winnings will be, and give you kind of our thoughts on to make a best decision. It's another way to kind of reach out to the community, something fun to do. So if you're listening to this, we will send you, and you want to be part of it, we'll send you the form that we can sign up for emails. So you'll get it daily to your email, free of charge, doesn't cost anything. But we will help you out with some of your your college basketball betting throughout the rest of the year. And expect more things like that as far as content and fun things coming down the pike. We are working really hard to make this bigger brand than what it already is. But wrapping up episode 195 today for Coach DeRosa, Trevor, and everybody here. We hope you guys enjoy it. Packers are beating the Bears right now, so go Pack, go. But until Thursday on episode 196, we hope you guys enjoyed this week's college basketball. And until then, we will catch you guys down the road. Peace.
We sleep in May.